guys, welcome back to my channel. This week's topic is going to be on combating desires for sex or abstaining from sex. Now this is a little heavy of a topic, and I know that there are some younger people that I have on my YouTube channel. So with that being said, I'm gonna just pause a minute and give y'all an opportunity to kind of, log off. Okay. So like I said, so this week's topic is going to be combating desires for sex or abstaining from sex. And I have 4 tips that I feel will be very useful and helpful in combating those desires for sex or abstaining from sex. But like always, I'm going to go ahead and open up with the scripture. The scripture is going to be coming from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 3 through 5. So, for this is God's will, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality, so that each of you knows how to control his own body in sanctification and honor, not with lustful desires like the Gentiles who don't know God. Like I said, that's 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 3 through 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in like always and give you guys these 4 tips that I think will be very, very helpful in just combating these desires and abstaining from sex in general. So the first one is going to be boundaries. Boundaries are something that, can kind of be universal for a lot of different things, whether it's, friendships, relationships, just people, how you interact with people in general. Boundaries are just very important. So I have this as one of them because I feel like having intentional conversation involving both parties about what both parties are comfortable with is very important in combating those desires for sex, because honestly, if you're being honest with yourself, you know yourself and you know what can take you to that next level. So if you're being honest with your partner and just, setting those boundaries and being intentional about what you're not going to do, and how those certain things can lead to other things, and just being intentional about the boundaries that you're setting in place is very important in just combating those desires, because you don't want anyone to be uncomfortable. For one, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody's comfortable, but also you don't want it to be a situation where you're pushing too far, or you did too much and it caused you guys to sin sexually because you guys didn't respect each other's boundaries. So the second tip that I have is going to be places where you can be held accountable. So that mostly is just dealing with, when you're hanging out with your significant other, you're hanging out with whomever. It may not even be significant other. It could be somebody you're talking to, whomever it is. Just being very selective over the places that you guys hang out. Like, public places tend to be ideal. Whether it's like, going out to eat, going out and walking in a park, going out on the beach, public places, because you're not going to be as tempted to go and do anything that could, get you caught up ultimately. So just public places or group settings that will help remove some of that temptation that you have, some of that temptation that can be there for you guys to sin sexually. And so just being mindful of the places and the locations that you go, which I'm not saying that, oh, you can't go into nobody's house or anything like that, but just, being mindful that those things can help, help the situation by not tempting you as much as a place where you guys are private. The third step that I have is going to be filling those voids with godly things. So when those urges and desires come up, shifting your focus to praising, to worship, to prayer, and just reading the word in general to kind of take your mind off of those things, because sometimes this can be for people who have had sex and people who haven't had sex. When those thoughts or those things come up in your mind, instead of you playing into them, you shift your focus over to God and you start praying or you start reading your word, and it just kind of helps combat that, because you're filling your body with word, for one, but then 2, you're also combating those instant urges right then and there, so that you wouldn't be as likely to act on them when you're filling those voids with godly things. So that's something that can be extremely helpful in just dealing with those urges. And the fourth and final step that I have is going to be protecting your eye gates. This is something that I feel is very important. And I say very important because it's easy for us as people to be kind of desensitized to a lot of things that we see. We be watching TV and there's sex scenes going on and you don't even think about it, but those are things that are coming into your spirit. You know, certain songs that you're listening to, I mean, that's your ear gate, but there's certain things that you listen to that can cause you to you know, go in that place in your mind where you begin to urge or desire sex. And just being mindful of those things that you're listening to, those things that you're seeing, and those things that you're viewing, whether it's porn or you're listening to, you know, some ratchet music that, you know, you really ain't had no business listening to, whatever the case may be. But just being understanding and being selective over those things that you're putting into your system, because as you begin to put those things into your system, your chances of acting on them can become increasingly higher. So just being mindful of those things that you're putting into your spirit as well, and just protecting your eye gates and your ear gates. So I'm gonna run down those again. I have 4 steps. The first one is gonna be creating boundaries. Important to create boundaries, because you don't want nobody to be uncomfortable. You don't want to overstep those boundaries. And being intentional about creating those boundaries. The places where you can be held accountable, go where you know people can hold you accountable for your stuff. And I know people run from accountability, but accountability is really important just in helping us push through this Christian walk. Filling those voids with godly things when those urges and those desires come up. Just making sure that you're engulfing yourself in the word, engulfing yourself in prayer, engulfing yourself in worship to help combat those desires and those feelings. And then protecting your eye gates, protecting your ear gates, and just being mindful of everything that you're putting into your system, because it's important to make sure that you're being very selective over the things that you're putting into your system. So I hope that this video was very beneficial for you all. I hope that you are able to get something out of it, and I hope that is a blessing to you guys. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week and a great weekend, and I will see you guys next Thursday with a new video. Bye, YouTube.